Double Destro, please, please. We're seconds away.
There we go. There we go. We got
please.
the opinions from you guys on the desk. We can see the chat is pretty much split here. This is going to be the first matchup of the day where we do see a team sent home, and this is going to start to illuminate who is going to make it to the land.
Where is it? Not there.
Not there.
Feels bad.
Just in our dreams, but this is going to be a very strong composition as well. Change my mind, not going to be switching anything up since they dropped down to the lower side of the bracket. Let's see if it's enough to bring down Plot Twist.
Yeah, and this is a composition so far Change My Mind has been feeling very comfortable with, and I don't think this is a bad matchup for them. Normally when we see the Frost Mage Assassination Rogue Resto Druid against a Destruction Warlock, although it's difficult to take the Destruction Warlock down, you can sort of really limit their output. Having the Assassination Rogue consistently Kidney Shot Infernion is going to make it very difficult for him to actually get out the Chaos Bolts that he needs later on in the game. As dampening gets higher, Infernion will likely fall, so it's going to be up to Plot Twist to sort of race against the clock, try to find a kill opportunity in this match.
It would be typically a very startling start for Plot Twist, but Infernion took the game completely into his own control, spell locking incoming crowd control from Mpoike, while Rezus denied incoming crowd control from Fried Kitty. And because they split up their resources to deny crowd control, Change My Mind effectively got nothing done with their opener. We see Acro pinned between two rings apiece, but unfortunately he was not the target of choice at that critical moment in time. Infernion trying to set up for a huge Chaos Bolt. This next one will be gigantic, but not able to find it. Gets denied, and in the meantime, Fried Kitty has secured crowd control. They looked strong on their Rogue Mage in their previous series against Method Black, although compositionally disadvantaged. I'm very curious to see how they play when they're more evenly footed in terms of composition.
Yeah, Numliz now in a Cyclone, interrupt on Infernion. Infernion still not topped off, and he's already traded out the Unending Resolve. This is not a great start for Plot Twist as Numliz gets interrupted. Chaos Bolt on Fried Kitty. He's low. Is he going to get the Ice Block off? Not enough damage with the Cyclone onto Infernion. Good denial there by Mpoike. That was a close call for Change My Mind, but made it patiently. Now Infernion in a little bit of trouble. Life Cocoon traded out by Numliz to keep him alive. I think that should be able to, unless Change My Mind can continue the crowd control chain, and they do manage to find it. Mpoike is on fire in this matchup, trading out Cyclone after Cyclone, beautifully setting up his team, but that's put him very far behind on mana.
Numliz overextended with Way of the Crane to get an Ice Block, then didn't get the Ice Block, and then got crowd controlled, and then had to use his Gladiator's Medallion on something that isn't blind. And typically when facing a rogue of any specialization, if you have to use your Gladiator's Medallion as the healer on anything but blind, the next blind is the end of the game. So I would feel like Plot Twist are on now a bit of a clock now to get a kill, which they might be able to find with good crowd control. Maybe not enough. Counterspell, beautiful crowd control from Fried Kitty. He's definitely stepped up his game here today. Unfortunately, now this is the full blind. I would have liked to have seen it saved for. Do they have a Polymorph TR? They do have the Polymorph TR. So they've got the Polymorph TR, they followed it up, but they weren't able to connect. Numliz positioned well. He moved very far away from Infernion, so Acro had to overextend to blind and then couldn't connect back to his target. Because of the way that Infernion and Numliz positioned, they overcame that situation where not having Gladiator's Medallion for blind looked like it didn't even matter.
Infernion getting interrupted, still under fire, and that's really one of the strengths of the Assassination Rogue, is shutting down the Destruction Warlock. Kidney Shot is just up so frequently as a single target stun that it really becomes difficult for Infernion when he finally gets through the interrupts, tries to find a Chaos Bolt, there's the full stun. Now Numliz into a Polymorph, throws out the Life Cocoon once again, preemptively denying a lot of the damage and pressure that Change My Mind could potentially find. And Mpoike now sneaking away, regenerating his mana if he can sit down for a drink, and that's a great spot for him to be in. Right now, this is the Vendetta from Acro. They're trying to push through and take down Infernion. No Life Cocoon available. If there's any crowd control on Numliz, definitely Plot Twist could be in some trouble, but with the Dark Soul rolling, they might be able to find some counter pressure. Unfortunately not. Garrote Silence denied. Fried Kitty throwing in Gladiator's Maledict once again. Beautiful Cyclone by Mpoike. If he can push in and get some crowd control on Numliz, bash into Polymorph, gets Polymorphed on his Trinket, Infernion could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Frozen Orb drop, lots of Ice Lance, good Cyclone. The crowd control initiation by Change My Mind is immaculate here in game number 1. Infernion holds on by a thread. Multiple fears being spammed out. Will it be enough for him to stay alive? It looks like it will. Peeling off the entire team and stabilizing with basically 1% health remaining. Infernion stays alive and now looks to counterattack.
Change My Mind cannot believe what just happened. Infernion hanging on by a thread and now has the Unending Resolve available once again. So a lot of defensive cooldowns available now for Plot Twist. Change My Mind, they were right at the finish line. Unfortunately, didn't have the damage to close it out. Now Infernion's going to be feeling healthy, looking for Chaos Bolts, trying to reverse the pressure onto Acro, but the Fink denies that. Mpoike's Iron Bark Inferneon's still in midfield, basically acting as a turret for his team, trying to find some pressure. Kitty's he's used his Icy Veins. It's the last little bit of his Icy Veins, trying to close out, try to find the damage takedown. Inferneon unfortunately wasn't able to. Now without that, he's not going to have really the pressure that he needs, but another setup coming in from Change My Mind. Polymorph secured onto Numliz, and Inferneon gates away on top of Numliz. Poike follows it up with a bash. And I've been impressed with Change My Mind so far in this tournament. The Rogue Mage Druid gameplay has been top level, but just haven't been able to find the victories in any of their series so far. Now Acro getting bursted down off the back of the Touch of Death coming in from Rezus. Change My Mind is a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah, it's not very often we get to say Rogue Mage is not the meta, but in this tournament, it's certainly not looking to be the case. Change My Mind have definitely put in a lot of practice to step up their play. I think moving forward, if the meta does shift, that they could be a strong contender, but still relying on effectively their entire roster as one tricks, every single member only playing one class, and even on one class, maybe only limited to one or maybe two specializations. So Change My Mind, if they want to be able to nail down the entire year, have to focus more on diversifying their roster and not just relying on a meta, because even though they're playing phenomenally on this, they need to play phenomenally on more than just this. Numla's locked out of the match in a polymorph, but no follow-up. Acro getting counter-aggressed, and Poike exchanges to stabilize with Ironbark and Feint. It should be more than enough for Acro to stay aggressive. Kidney shot onto Inferno. Smoke bomb attempt. Numla's needs to get in there, but Poike denies him on the reconnect. Huge Comet Storm crashing in. Perfect Cyclone timing. Immaculate crowd control once again by the team of Change My Mind, and Inferneon will fall. Perfect play.
Yeah, and Inferneon, you're not going to get out of that twice. One time, maybe you can cheat death. Not twice. Change My Mind going to be able to take this one.
Really, really clean Rogue Mage Druid gameplay from these guys. This is really awesome to see how they punished Numliz every time he would push in with that Way of the Crane. Fried Kitty would be there, landing the polymorph, and that's really what set things off. Initially in that match, I thought that they didn't really do a great job with that blind play, but I mean, Poike honestly had such great low cyclones here again. Fried Kitty polymorphs up that immunity to interrupts that Numliz has, that Thunder Focus T, and then of course we see a polymorph onto Rezus to stop some of those off heals. Fried Kitty gets a polymorph onto Rezus in the smoke bomb, so he cannot be dispelled. Acro is shutting down all of these casts from Inferneon. Poike is getting that bash into Cyclone, into Recyclone as well. The entirety of the team is just getting shut down. Just clinic Rogue Mage gameplay.
That is the thing. I hear a lot of criticism about maybe playing Rogue Mage in this current meta. Maybe it's not exactly the moment to be playing it, the moment where it's going to be in the spotlight. But we don't have that much criticism, do we, about how they are actually playing it? It seems like if you were going to pick one team to play the comp right now, it would be these guys.
Yeah, them and the Chalky Milkmen have been impressing me the most with the Rogue Mage Druid so far. Them stepping up with the Frost Mage. Fried Kitty has been doing an excellent job really controlling the game, and Poike especially on that Restoration Druid really set up his team with the Cyclones, picked the perfect moments to push in, gets the bash, the follow-up Cyclones, as well as consistently sneaking away to drink. And I think it's that mix of defense and offense that they're able to bring that has allowed them to be successful so far in this tournament.
All right, now what do we think happens next? How do we think that this series does actually move, Sid, as we jump into our next draft?
I mean, Numliz, what we've seen as far as a weakness for him is that in this particular matchup, it's probably better for him to be a Shaman than a Mistweaver, but when he goes on the Shaman, it doesn't look that strong, and he has had to change his specializations a lot, having re-rolled over from Discipline Priest to Mistweaver, so maybe that's too much to put on his plate right now, but I think overall a Shaman would be a better pick with the Windwalker and the Destruction. If not, maybe double Destruction. It's kind of tough for them because the Rogue Mage has good setups on the Warlock and the Windwalker if anyone makes a mistake. And in that game, Numliz was caught too many times with Polymorph on his Way of the Crane, and then they were able to open up a window of opportunity to kill Inferneon because of Smoke Bomb with No Gliders Medallion, and they don't have the same type of durability as the Death Knight and the Demon Hunter, so Change My Mind are able to exploit that a lot better. Plot twist, selecting a small map. I think it's a wise move. They've got more area of effect crowd control with Leg Sweep and Ring of Peace, so the map is solid on their part, but perhaps they don't even change their composition.
All right, that's definitely some potential for that. Dollar and Sewer is going to be that small map, like you did mention. Seems like the right play. Zico, what do you think Change My Mind does here? It seems like they're not going to be in a place where they're going to want to change things up very much today.
No, I don't think they're going to change their mind. I think we're going to see Rogue Mage Druid, and I think Plot Twist are not going to be bringing any plot twists. They are going to be just sticking to that same composition as well, like Sid mentioned. The map being a very telling factor, of course. Maybe we would have seen the double Destro again. My fingers are still crossed for it, but then we would probably see a big map, and then Change My Mind might actually call that and lock in a different composition. Maybe the Shadow Priest with Valet would come in instead of Acro.
Yeah, I think that's probably exactly how we see the series go. If that does become the composition that gets locked in, it's pretty obvious. The setup for it is very much going to be there. The map will be that portents of doom, if you will. And now we are going to see Plot Twist locking in with this composition yet again on Dollar and Sewers. How does this one play out with the smaller map?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that for Change My Mind, they actually have an easier time landing Crown Control onto Numliz, but on the flip side, Plot Twist are going to have a lot more uptime, especially onto Fried Kitty. If they choose to go after him, they can shut down a lot more control that way. The Rings of Pieces, especially from Rezus, have been really, really good. We see him time and time again when someone tries to go behind those boxes. We see him drop that Ring of Peace kind of behind there, knocking the person back in line of sight of his Warlock and setting him up for those big, juicy Chaos Bolts. So things like that, as well as the fact that when people are behind those boxes, you can kind of split them up with Ring of Peace. You can get big AoE stuns with Shadow Fury, Infernal Stun, Leg Sweep as well. All of those AoE abilities that lock people down are going to be very effective on this map. So in addition to all of that, it's also going to be harder for me and Poike to find drinks. So a faster game altogether is what we should be expecting on this map.
Okay, a faster map in pretty much every single box. You just checked it off. It's going to be hard for Minpoike to go really long without sneaking away for some of these drinks. And then obviously the way that they're going to be able to set up some of that crisp CC going to make some real win conditions nice and early. Let's see if Change My Mind can get on match point or if Plot Twist is going to be able to tie up this series. This one is for elimination.
Yeah, and one of the things we saw in the last game that was really difficult for Rezus is, as a Windwalker Monk, it is very challenging to chase down a Frost Mage who has a Restoration Druid backing him up. So anytime Fried Kitty's in trouble, he can run out into the open, and that allows Minpoike to land Cyclones, which he definitely wasn't afraid to do in that last matchup, because he was able to easily recover his mana. But on the smaller map, Rezus is going to have a much easier time sitting down on Fried Kitty. But still, my worry for this matchup is that Infernion is just going to be locked down so much, and Numla's on that Mistweaver Monk is going to be very susceptible to a lot of the crowd control Change My Mind have available.
Yeah, and Change My Mind have been on point throughout the entire day, and now Mistweaver is a lot easier to exploit than a Restoration Druid, so Numla's needs to navigate through a ton of crowd control to get out potential counter pressure and heal his team. We do see a good engagement so far for Plot Twist as Fried Kitty is falling heavily behind, and Poike gets spell locked on an incoming cast, and that could put him even further behind. Actually re-stealthing while interrupted. Good usage of time there on Poike's part to get advantages. That smoke bomb gets dropped. Change My Mind look to rotate around for an early kill. Infernion gets cycloned at low health on his defensive cooldown. Minpoike then shifts that cyclone onto the enemy healer Numliz, and Change My Mind have suddenly flipped this game completely on its head and maybe looking to close it out. Another cyclone, 1 second too late. That Life Cocoon connects, but potentially not enough. If Fried Kitty can get a polymorph, he gets spell locked immediately. Fried Kitty still has an opportunity to get it with Numliz out in center field trying to stabilize Infernion, then ducking around the corner. He knows that polymorph is the next threat and wants to avoid it as long as possible. It's very difficult for Numliz in this position. Does he use Way of the Crane, make a push with his team? If he does, he's walking into crowd control. Minpoike re-stealthing, stunning up into a poly. I would love this Feral Affinity adaptation on Minpoike's part. He's been utilizing it in Game 1 and Game 2 to likely close this out. Tons of damage. Infernion falls further behind. Numliz activates that Way of the Crane. He needs to make a big push with this, Ven.
Yeah, it definitely does. They need to find the damage on the Fried Kitty. He actually trinketed out of blind as well. And Infernion with no unending resolve, no trinket. Numliz with no trinket. Change My Mind is just one setup from closing out this game. Infernion's still in a lot of trouble. Fried Kitty can land the full Ring of Frost. What is Infernion going to do? Cross crowd control onto Rezus. All three members completely controlled. Beautiful execution by Change My Mind, but do they have the damage? And Poike throwing in Solar Wrath after Solar Wrath. Infernion hanging on by a thread as Akros looking to reconnect, but Numliz lands the Life Cocoon to keep Infernion in this game.
Cyclone timing's not on point there for Minpoike. I think he wanted to fake cast a spell lock, which he did, but he still casted the Cyclone so late The Life Cocoon was easily casted by Numliz in between crowd control. Although these setups have looked clean, they get another full polymorph. Acro's on Fear DR. He's going to get full uptime. They have to deny Fried Kitty on his further polymorph chain. They managed to for now. Numliz is open unless Minpoike can sneak in. He's not able to find the window. He gets denied by Rezus, and Fernion follows it up, but still pressure in favor of Change My Mind. They're just crushing with damage. Way of the Crane gets activated in desperation. Will it be enough? If he gets crowd controlled on it, it could be the end of the game. Numliz ducks around the corner, out of line of sight. Ring of Peace prevents Minpoike from jumping into Cyclone. That Ring of Peace might be the only thing that kept Numliz out of crowd control long enough to potentially save Infernion for Life Cocoon now to be available. Really well placed, but still, Minpoike moves in. No one can stop him. Secures the full Cyclone, and Life Cocoon may not be enough.
Yeah, that was Vendetta from Acro. They still have a little damage. Infernion now trying to counter pressure, dropping the Infernals, and that's exactly what he needs in this situation, but still just being denied by Acro. He's caught into a kick, into a Garrote silence. Numliz now into a full polymorph. Infernion barely holding on. There's no counter pressure whatsoever in this matchup for Plot Twist. Minpoike's mana still looking good, and Change My Mind is just dominating them.
Yep, Change My Mind really showing why they're currently the third place team in terms of points. They can't take down Method Black or Wildcard Gaming, the Titans, but they're still a strong contender in this tournament series in the Europe region in general. And if the meta does ever swing to be a Rogue Mage meta, they're going to be a really big threat. I mean, look at this currently. Infernion just constantly against the wall, just not able to even get any sort of counter pressure. Cyclone did low health. They have to time the Life Cocoon potentially in between this. Maybe Numliz gets interrupted. He gets cycloned. They didn't go for the safe play by pre-activating that Life Cocoon, and not going for the safe play could cost Infernion's life. Full polymorph secured. Crowd control looks good. Flurry comes in. Huge combo. Infernion falls. Change My Mind. Move to match point.
And one of the big things that I do want to touch upon, I know, Zico, you actually got a chance to talk to Rezus, I believe, but in this matchup. So what do you think?
I think Plot Twist are going to win this game, and I think that the Monk definitely is a weakness in that regard because he can get crowd controlled like we saw in Valor and Sewers. Now, if you have two Warlocks with a 45-second CD AoE coil, I don't think that's going to be a problem. And I think with the amount of lockdown that these Warlocks have and the amount of burst that they can bring at the back of that, I don't think Fried Kitty is going to be doing anything.
All right, well, Plot Twist has played this composition 2 times. We saw him win with it once. They lost the other time. What's it going to be in this third debut for the Warlock Reign of Destruction? We find out right now.
Yes, Dave has taunted Fried Kitty and Acro, pulled aggro at the beginning of this game. Infernion beginning to be happy about that one. He's the one who was trained down in the last 2 games playing against Change My Mind. That's going to free him up to get some damage rolling. Infernals have been dropped out by Infernion, and I think it's good that Change My Mind runs away, but I also think it's really smart what Plot Twist did is they didn't commit both of their Infernals, so Change My Mind not really going to get too much out of that opener as they make a big attempt over onto Numliz. Can Numliz survive? So far, it seems like he's able to as he rolls away with that Chi Torpedo. And now Infernion Yes Dave can really tear in.
Yeah, Fried Kitty needs to be ready with double Dark Soul activated. Minpoike gets swapped to and bursted. Yes Dave in position to finish. They land the leg sweep. Minpoike has to trinket. Infernion on the ropes as well, but a double Mortal Coil pins Minpoike out in the open. Another Mortal Coil to follow up after that. One Chaos Bolt could take the kill. As Minpoike is trying to duck for cover in desperation. Why did Numliz not wave the crane already? He would have killed Minpoike by now. Now with the way of the crane, maybe has enough damage to do so. Pinning Minpoike out in midfield with that Ring of Peace. One Chaos Bolt, 2. Minpoike looks like a chicken running around. Just has no idea where he wants to go. Gets completely destroyed.
Oh man, I know, Zico, it was your birthday last week's broadcast. I think this week it's everybody's birthday. We get to see a game like that. Plot Twist gonna put one on the board, and they're gonna fight off another 3-0 here today. It looked like we were gonna have all 3-0s. How were they able to do it? It looked like they just pushed all the buttons at once.
Well, they dropped the first Infernal. Entire team have changed my mind. They respect the cooldown. They go behind the pillar. Yes, Dave. Second Infernal. Why not? Drops that. Infernion gets a big juicy Chaos Bolt on Minpoike. Numliz, Ring of Peace, back into Infernion's line of sight. Way of the Crane gonna get activated as well. Look at this. So Dave is gonna go ahead and drop his Infernals. Now that they are line of sighting Infernion's Infernals, that was hard to say. There we go. Shadow Fury, Infernals are gonna get dropped. They have landed right there to shut down that swap onto Anomalous at the same time as well. And then here we go, one Chaos Bolt is flying in, the Dark Soul is activated, Fried Kitty's gonna retreat, but look at Mimpoike, he's gonna be back here, chilling, taking a lot of cleave damage right there. Now he's trying to heal himself up. He actually hasn't activated his Bark Skin. Trinkets out of that leg sweep, pre-Bark Skins the Mortal Coil, and there we go. Another double Mortal Coil of the first Mortal Coil, and then Yes Dave gets kicked on his Chaos Bolt. Namliz activates his Way of the Crane to get out of that Nova, and Inferno's trying to land a Fear. Beautiful Ring of Peace allows it to happen. Another Fear. Here comes the Chaos Bolt. Boom, Mimpoike. And then Namliz, of course, gonna Trinket out of that Ring of Frost as well to try to seal the deal. Double Warlock.
What do you think about that timing of the Way of the Crane? I know we heard Sid be like maybe a little bit critical of it during the cast, but it results in a win. How did you feel about that timing from them?
It could have been better. I agree with Sid. It could have definitely been a little bit better.
Just a little bit earlier with those cooldowns, potentially. Maybe we see Mimpoike go down even faster.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those things where wouldn't even watching the replay, I don't know why Mimpoike was dying.
Yeah.
He's feral affinity.
Oh, because it was feral affinity. Maybe not the best idea. Well, I don't know. That's debatable.
You would normally want to run affinity
I think
double
it's good.
caster, but
it seemed like he was just getting cleaved down by the Infernals. They weren't even really trying to take Mimpoike down until he was already low, and they're like, oh, we still got 2 Gladiators Maledicts left. He's low, he's not recovering his HP, and that's why you can't really blame Anomalous for waiting a little bit on the Way of the Crane. I don't even think they potentially tried to set that up. They're just basically taking advantage of a situation that came perfectly to them.
Wasn't the plan. It was a happy little accident. They're going to be able to take Mimpoike down, and now the question is, do we see Plot Twist lock this in on the blind, Zico?
Yes.
Better.
I mean, well, their other option is Windwalker Mage. They're going to lose to Rogue Mage. And Windwalker Lock. They're going to lose to Rogue Mage. Lock in, double lock, and you're most likely going to be facing Shadow Priest Mage, but you could win that. And if you win that, then you've beaten Change My Mind on all of their comps. You set yourself up for a reverse sweep. Map's only going to be the big factor there then.
Yeah, I think too the other important thing, Van, is if let's say that they are able to take down another composition that we do see Change My Mind throw here, and let's say it's a relatively even matchup. Let's say it's a 50-50 matchup. That's actually not a bad-looking series for Plot Twist.
Yeah, Plot Twist with the double Destruction Warlock, you can never count this composition out. Destruction Warlocks, when left alone, is by far the most disruptive caster in the entire game, with the amount of diminishing returns it has, with the Mortal Coil, with the Spammable Fear, with the Shadow Fury. It has an incredible toolkit. We saw it get completely shut down, though, unfortunately, by Change My Mind. When there was only one Destruction Warlock, it's easy to handle that, but when there's 2, and one of them is inevitably going to be open to just free cast, it's really difficult to deal with, and I feel like for Change My Mind, even if they lock in the Frostmage Shadow Priest, I'm not convinced that's a composition that should beat Double Destro. I feel Double Destro probably has an edge in that matchup as well.
That's kind of why I said the 50-50 thing, but I even think it might be a 60-40 thing, Zico.
I think the smart thing for Change My Mind to do here would be to lock in the Fire Mage Assassination and then try to win with killing one of the Warlocks like that. I think if they lock in Frost Rogue again, Plot Twist should be walking away with this one as well.
Have we seen Fried Kitty play Fire yet in these tournaments?
I think we've seen Fire Kitty once.
Okay, oh yeah. I think I called him Fire Kitty by mistake.
You called him Frost Kitty once by mistake, so now, a little bit of bakery, chef to chef joke.
Shenanigans.
We don't actually have a name for this composition, do we? I mean, like, what are they cooking? They're not G-pies.
Burnt pies?
I thought of something, but I think I'm going to save it. Super Tease, when we do look at this composition, I'll tell you guys later. But when we do think of this composition, and let's say you run through, okay, so we're going to actually see Fried Kitty staying on Frost here. What do you think the chances are that they find another opening on Mimpoike? Does Mimpoike move away from going in Feral Affinity this time around? I think a lot of things can change, even with Change My Mind bringing this.
Yeah, I think he'll probably change it just because of how dismal that was for him to recover. If he goes Guardian Affinity, he gets Frenzied Regeneration, which is, in that situation, basically a full heal. So that entire situation is completely taken off the table, but he loses the advantage that was able to win him 2 games, which is getting that extra stun from his ability Rake, which is provided by the Feral Affinity. So It's an aggressive trade-off for more of a defensive trade-off, and do they need that much offense to win is what they have to measure. If they don't, then it just makes sense. Go Guardian Infinity. We don't need that extra aggression. Go for the safe pick. Don't diamond Poike, and then we'll just win later in the fights. But if they do need that little bit of aggression and that risk, then it's up to Poike. You need to play better position to avoid them. They've picked Black Recold, which has a lot of bunkers to hide in on the outskirts of the map. You can use the pillar at the center of the battle as well with that ramp. So the map is good for Poike to avoid it, to go for a riskier choice should he decide to go that route.
All right, Change My Mind. Just one away from taking the series, but Plot Twist with their new answer of double Warlock was able to take one. Will they be able to go for the reverse sweep?
We are about to find out here. It's still match point. Plot Twist still face elimination. Change My Mind are trying to secure their third place on terms of points to qualify to the spring finals. They looked solid throughout the entire day up until that last game where everything just fell apart, and maybe the entire series will here, Ven.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see what can happen, and it really is anyone's guess. With double destruction Warlock, really anything can happen. Chaos Bolt, very powerful ability, lots of control with both of these Warlocks as well. We'll have to see what Change My Mind can get done. I feel like for the most part, like you kind of mentioned in the last game, they're going to have to implement a hit and run strategy. I don't think they can just sit out in the open. They'll be taking far too much damage. They have to try to just line of sight, move in when Acro has Kidney Shot, and try to make plays happen that way. But if one of these Warlocks is left open, I feel like it's going to be really easy for them to deny Poike and Fry Kitty the kind of crowd control we saw in the first two games.
You see a good initiation here by Change My Mind with Blind, but Numless doesn't even have to use Gliders Medallion, now opting to use it on the Polymorph. Now there'll be an 8-second window where they could get a kill with Blind later on. That's definitely something I'm looking to see if Change My Mind can exploit. Poike decided to go with the safe route. He doesn't want to be falling over like he did in that last game, so he's went with the Guardian Affinity. I think with that added defense, he is now no longer a target unless he basically throws the game and stands in the middle of the map eating 4 Chaos Bolts in a row. Then he maybe goes down, but with Guardian Affinity, he's going to be much more durable.
Yeah, looks like an attempt here by Acro, trying to create some pressure for his team, but unfortunately, Fried Kitty really nowhere to be found in terms of damage, and that's why we kind of wanted to see Fried Kitty get on the Fire Mage, as it would give him a little bit more instant damage in order to sort of push through some of the defensives that Plot Twist really has available. On the Frost Mage, it's going to be difficult for him to really get too much damage rolling. Yes, Dave now looking for Fears. Numless caught into his Cyclone, and Poike's still been able to find good crowd control in the game so far, but there's just no damage for Change My Mind.
Yep, Change My Mind, playing it slow and steady, but into a double destruction Warlock, this is what I was trying to allude to, is can you win as slow and steady against 2 Warlocks? You would typically give that to the Warlock team. They want to be playing slow and steady, and Rogue Mage wants to go fast and hard, so I'm not sure if that's going to work for Change My Mind overall. Poike removes the threat of himself going down, but they lose all aggressive potential as well in exchange.
Yeah, they do.
Yes, Dave looking for a Chaos Bolt. Looks like he'll be shut down. Acro in this matchup, he's been looking for re-stealths quite often. So running away, if he can get a re-stealth, that provides him the opportunity to get not only cheap shots on both Warlocks, but Garrote Silence as well. But Acro getting low, could be in some trouble. Cloak of Shadows denies the Mortal Coil of Infernion. Nice plays there by Acro. If he got caught in that Mortal Coil, it could have ultimately been his life. Now, out of line of sight, we'll be looking for a re-stealth potentially once again, but not able to find it. There was a pet on him. Nicely done by Yesdave. Good pet control with that Fell Hunter, not allowing Acro to get the re-stealth off, as that is going to allow Change My Mind to get a lot of setup. They can eventually do it. Now Shadow Fear onto Acro. He's in some trouble. He's been in midfield for far too long, and Poike has to trade out his Trinket and the Iron Bark. Acro still getting spam feared. The only defensive he really has left is his Vanish, which should keep him alive, but still Acro's very vulnerable.
Yeah, moving forward, Change My Mind, shifting gears and trying to slow it down. I don't think that it's ultimately in their best route to victory to do that. Numless trades out Life Cocoon to try and stabilize Yes Dave. There's an opening for Smoke Bomb potentially in 50 more seconds from now for Acro. They've been playing it really patient, holding on to big aggressive cooldowns on those pushes, but inevitably falling behind. Numless is basically at full mana. It will be up to Poike to be able to drag out the game and drink and reset that later on. Numless currently polymorphed. This would typically be a scary moment for Plot Twist, but they look unshaken.
Yep. Looks like Plot Twist, they are very durable with this composition so far. And I think the one thing Changed My Mind has going for them is the Assassination Rogue is very effective at taking down a Destruction Warlock, especially, like we said, as we kind of move forward into Dampening. Destruction Warlocks, they have a lot of self-healing, so as Dampening gets higher, that defense definitely gets limited, and that's where Acro by himself can essentially take down one of these Destruction Warlocks. It seems like Infernion is the target of choice so far, but Plot Twist, they have every single defensive cooldown still ready to go. Acro's trying to bait something out before using Vendetta, but unfortunately not able to find the damage just yet. Another attempt here by Change My Mind, but Fried Kitty into the interrupt. Infernion looking for a Chaos Bolt. Unfortunately, line of sight, not able to find it. Once again, another Chaos Bolt with a Mortal Coil from YesDave. And YesDave and Infernion, they've been using both their Mortal Coils back-to-back to give them sort of a 4.5 second window where they can get that damage off, but unfortunately, those Mortal Coils, they have sort of a pathing with the way you walk, and that can take you out of line of sight, and that's what's been happening, so Plot Twist hasn't been able to find the damage off those coils just yet.
Good engagement by Change My Mind. They managed to pull Life Cocoon from Numbliz, putting that cooldown checklist slightly smaller. Now with Dampening kicking in, you have to start thinking who's favored and who isn't. I still think it's anyone's game here on Blackrock Hold. Infernion gets cycloned at low health. Devastation for Numbliz. He activates Way of the Crane to try and top him off as soon as it ends, but gets stunned right as Infernion comes out of the Cyclone. And Poike jumps into the fight. Do they have any follow-up? Doesn't look like it. Now they're getting Chaos Bolted, double Mortal Coiled, and thwarted away. They do manage to at least get Unending Resolve from Infernion. A critical defensive cooldown out of the way, and Change My Mind setting themselves up well for victory here on Game 4.
Yeah, that was good crowd control on Numbliz, denying the Way of the Crane, but that's what we kind of talked about. Infernion, he's not a sitting duck anymore. He doesn't have a Windwalker Monk just throwing out effuses to keep him, or Vivifies to keep him alive. He has YesDave who can spam Fear and Shadow Fear and Mortal Coil, and has a Spell Lock to deny Change My Mind. That's going to allow Infernion a lot more breathing room and allow Numbliz to get a little bit more aggressive without being punished so hard in this matchup. In terms of mana, right now, Change My Mind has a bit of a lead, but I feel like Numbliz is going to hold on to his mana for a little bit longer in this matchup. Fried Kitty still doing a good job denying the Polymorph spam, really controlling up Infernion and YesDave. We look at offensive cooldowns. Fried Kitty with Icy Veins in a minute. Acro with his Vendetta in 5 seconds. If they can line those up, they might be able to push down through some of the defensives. Infernion, without his Unending Resolve, is going to be a very vulnerable target here during this next attempt. As long as Change My Mind lined up their crowd control and offensive cooldowns, I think they definitely have a great offensive push shortly.
Ooh, double leg sweep. Good catch by Numbliz. That banks them multiple defensive cooldowns from the side of Change My Mind, and more importantly, Acro lulls Gladiator's Medallions. So rogues are highly susceptible to dying and stuns. What do they have to remove stuns? Gladiator's Medallion. Now Acro doesn't have access to that, so he is vulnerable to that weakness that rogues are typically vulnerable to, and Plot Twist can look to exploit that in roughly 40 seconds from now when Numbliz has leg sweep again. So if you're Acro, you got to be careful.
Yeah, definitely have to be careful of being caught into a stun, into a Mortal Coil. That's a great opportunity for Plot Twist, but now, Change My Mind getting aggressive. It has been Vendetta popped by Acro onto Infernion with a full Cyclone onto Numbliz. Beautiful triple crowd control once again. What is Infernion going to do? Looking for Chaos Bolts onto Fried Kitty. Fried Kitty forced to retreat just a little bit here. Now, Numbliz with the Life Cocoon looking to deny that kill. Infernion should be able to hold on. YesDave doing a great job playing defense. Good counter pressure there by Plot Twist in order to stay alive.
Yeah, really good defense here. Both teams evenly matched. Potentially, if Plot Twist had just pulled this composition out from the get-go, maybe they could be up 2-1 in this series. It's a bit unfortunate for them because they're on the bubble. They're one of those teams that could overthrow Change My Mind on the standings in terms of points, and they found this composition maybe too late into the series. Got a good combo. They've locked Acro out of the fight. Multiple Maledics, but Cloak of Shadows removes that healing absorption effect, and Poike can now easily recover. And Poike held his Gladiator's Medallion to exchange for this moment where Acro wouldn't have had his. So good trinket usage from Change My Mind. Nice rotation. We see another setup on Infernion. Deeper into Dampening, Life Cocoon does not become a shield that you can rely on. Smoke Bomb interrupts the heals for a couple more seconds. Maybe they can just overwhelm Infernion with pressure. A fully channeled Ray of Frost. Big mistakes here from Plot Twist to allow that to happen. Numbliz now polymorphed, and there's no way that Unending Resolve will even be enough to allow Infernion to stand here against Change My Mind as they clean it up, clean the series out 3-1.
Yeah, Infernion's resolve gonna come to a swift end there as we see Change My Mind